We are the Mystical Crossings group. And
They all changed their name. They all changed their name.
what we've noticed is every day we have to make choices, and we have schedules and agendas. And we define those schedules and agendas by destinations. Today I'm going to SCU. Maybe tonight I go to the night market to get some dinner. Then off to the karaoke bar, and then maybe back to the hotel. But we forget about what happens in between. And what happens in between is a choice. First, you can take the bus, you can take the train, you can take a taxi, or you can just walk there. But what's amazing is what happens when these modes of transition collide, and how politely sometimes they do disturb one another, and how it forces us to stop. When the traffic light turns red, the car stops. The pedestrian now has the right of way. They politely allow the pedestrian to cross the street. But on the other hand, if the traffic light is green, the pedestrian waits. And they wait. They're no longer just in a mode of transition or in transit. They are stopped. For a static moment, they realize their surrounding and where they are. And they enjoy it for what it is. And then they move on with their travel. This small temporal moment we found very exciting, especially for the Shih market area, which is totally energized by the way in which someone from a bus stop and an MRT stop merge into something like a crosswalk to cross the street, and they become compressed. And then they go off to their destination, off to the night market, or potentially to the future art center. But this is not a normal crosswalk. This is the entrance, the way in which most people get to this destination. It is the front door, and it is a journey that they all take together. But it is not just that. There is also the underpass, another world completely unknown to most people. It is a totally different type of atmosphere, one with all green lights, but one with mostly individuality. You walk alone. There's not many people here. Maybe there'll be 3 people at a time under there. Well, you have hundreds crowding around, and they actually wait together, crowded around by the traffic light, waiting to cross the street and make that journey, which can take as long as 40 seconds or 50 seconds. And our goal is not to change these, but just to reveal the idea of having a temporal static moment and emphasize this idea of enjoying your atmosphere. And so we decided to make the atmosphere perhaps a bit more surreal than it currently is. And so we began that process by a very simple gesture of extending the crosswalk and started to really emphasize its opening up into the future night market. So once it opens up into the future night market, it no longer is serving its purpose of being a crossing or a bridge over this heavy node of transit. So it can have other functions. It can start to emerge out of the ground and become seats or playgrounds. And then it can start to engage people. As a person walks, they just walk. But if they stop and pause, suddenly lights will go around them. If they sit, suddenly their personal space will begin to be blown and will reveal a static space, a static destination that's been created in a mode of transit. And then the underworld, which is a totally different world, again, something different happens. You first hear the bird chirping, which signifies the sound you hear when you cross the street. But once you go down there, it transforms. It transforms into a melody of music. And then the birds, projections of birds, begin to swarm around you. But then again, if you stop, the birds go from swarming around you to going on the ground and resting at your feet. To again emphasize you are now in a mode of static, and to realize your surroundings that you are in. And so this contrast between the upper and lower is an interesting contrast, but the pureness of just emphasizing the idea of static temporalness is our strategy. Now we're going to move towards the screen. And there, police officer.
This was last night?
Yes.
So amazing that all the police said nothing.
Yeah. Yeah,
just make it.
Camera.
One of the nice surprises was that the grading of the crosswalks did not disturb too much the actual passage that they had to go through on the sidewalk, but just gave them the choice if they wanted to try something different or sit down or play. But it did enforce it upon them. Now here we're going to show an animation that's just a really underpass. Yes. Yeah, show that the next animation too. And you can see that the person becomes like an attractor. They swarm around them, and they constantly are flocking. And only when you stand still do they start to just rest at your feet. Otherwise, they're dynamically swarming around you.
Those were black, right? That's it? Thank you. Thank you. Quite wonderful. And, you know, God knows you haven't told us how you're going to do it and where the projections, blah, blah, but I trust that, you know, there's somebody on the team who knows how to do it. But I love the idea of the birds from appearing to float around, fall on the floor, and, you know, make these wonderful patterns. I think that's really terrific.
I think the fact that the animation looks a little Hitchcocky, a little scary, is an important thing. I think, for me, these birds that are much looser, much less present might be stronger, but there may be even other ways of actually describing them or representing them, I guess, in that space. That again needs another series of graphic design kind of testing. It's like, or are they in fact even just words of birds, you know, like or names of birds? But somehow what you had there as actual birds, if they started to truly flock around me, could be kind of unpleasant. So you have to kind of, in that sense, play out that sort of test out what it means to be in a space with a graphic of a bird, or many of them.
But if they're impish, you know, and they're teasing you, angry with you, I mean, then there's nothing frightening about it. By the way, you know, I don't really know much about how this is made.